Vince DeSantis, how are you?
Good, David. Yourself?
Hey, I'm doing fine. Hey, Vince, I'm really excited today to talk to you and to talk to your client, Joy. And I think this is going to be a good talk. I'm excited about it. So today we've got Vince DeSantis. Vince is a insurance solution advisor. A lot of experience with multiple products, not only long-term care, but Medicare Sup, life insurance, and so on. So I'm going to turn this over to Vince so he can have a talk with one of his clients.
All right, great, David. Thanks. And I want to introduce Joy. Joy's been a client of mine since 1999, so 21 years. And she was 52 years old when we first met, so she was way ahead of the long-term care insurance curve back then. And Joy and I, she's been a good client, and she's got a story to tell. And I think it's important that you hear it from a client who has actually had the experience. And Joy, maybe you could just share a couple words about your story.
Certainly. I was, as Vince just said, we met quite a while ago, and at the time I was 52 years old, and long-term care insurance was the last thing on my mind. I thought it was something that would only, become an issue for me in the later time in my life when maybe I was approaching death, God forbid. But my father-in-law had made a decision that the family should all have long-term care, because his great concern was that anything that we may have accumulated in terms of financial assets could very easily just get sucked away by a situation that required expensive medical care. And so we all listened, and we sat down, and he called in this very lovely gentleman named Vince DeSantis. And Vince has, kind of been by my side. And as I tell you my story, you'll understand more about what I'm talking about. So I basically, we got the insurance. Everybody in the family got the insurance. And insurance is something that I guess when you think about, you hope it's something that you have, and in a sense, hope you never really need it, because then you have an issue. And I was just going along in life feeling like I was a very healthy person, and never considering my need for the long-term care insurance. And one day, I ended up finding out back in 2013 that I had a brain aneurysm. And the next day we found out I had two, and I needed to have a 10-hour emergency surgery, because those, if anybody knows about brain aneurysms, they're little time bombs. And it was, oh my God, I could die. Oh my God, oh my God. And we did the emergency surgery, and then, within a couple of days, sick as a dog, I got home. And then the problem becomes, well, how do you do this now? Unfortunately, my husband had passed away, and so I am a widow and living in an apartment in New York by myself, and who was going to take care of me, and I needed assistance. And how, you're at that point, I was in such bad shape that I was not even, what am I going to do now? How are we going to do this? And I made a call to Vince. And if I wasn't able to, because that's, a few years ago, then the friend that in a sense was looking out for me did, and said, hi, I'm a friend of, Joy Glass, and she's one of your clients with long-term care. And what do we do now? And Vince, within moments, gave me all of the information, because she didn't necessarily have it available. And he gave the policy, the policy number, and all of the terms, and what do we do, and who do we call, and how does that work? And as it turned out, the doctors had said it would take 4 to 6 weeks for my recovery. And as it turned out, it took 4 to 6 months for my recovery from the brain surgery. And I remember, and there was no way I could possibly have afforded. My friend was married and lived out in Long Island. She couldn't come and live with me. So what was she going to do? She didn't want to leave me alone, knew I needed help. And so I was able to have nursing care with me every single day for the 6 months, to the point where the nurse actually was able to, as I started to get better, actually come with me to work when I finally went back to work, to make sure that I was okay and that I had all of my faculties and that I had the strength to be able to go back to work. I would never in a million years have been able to afford to have that kind of care. And one of the things that it made me think about was, and when I would speak to anyone, I would go, most people that think about long-term care insurance think that you are taking advantage of the policy at such a later stage in your life that you're not going to survive it, and that the end of your claim is going to be that you're going to die, and that's going to be the end of your claim. I was in no way, shape, or form in February of 2013 ready to die. I was ready to get better and keep going, and I ultimately ended the claim. I was very satisfied. I was very pleased. It was just, and have over the course of time mentioned to people, if you have never thought about having long-term care insurance, this was my experience. And that was that. And I went along with my life and thought everything was, peachy keen. And I had made use of my insurance and had certainly, interestingly enough, gotten more of a benefit than I had paid for all of the years that I had had it. And then last year, on July 13th, I hadn't been feeling well for a few days and woke up and realized that I had had a stroke. Oh, and had to call the same dear friend, and she took an Uber in, and they called 911, got me into the hospital, and I, had literally had a stroke, and we now ended up in that same situation. I'm a right-handed person, had no use of my right hand, and needed physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. I couldn't sign a check. I couldn't do anything. And my whole life, I was afraid, because I was right-handed, to do anything in the kitchen because I have a gas stove. I was afraid that I didn't want to start a fire. So I needed assistance. And while we were still in the hospital, before I even got home, I said to my friend, call Vince. And sure enough, Vince answered the phone and I went, Vince, you're not going to believe this, but I had a stroke and I am in need of my long-term care insurance once again. And he said, not a problem. This is the phone number. This is the policy number. Gave my friend all of the information. We called up. A nurse came in maybe 3 or 4 days after I ultimately got home, did an assessment, and I from the moment I got home, it's now over a year, and I still am having my aides with me, because especially now, which where I have far improved and could have had a much more severe stroke, at this point, because of the COVID virus, and because I have a heart monitor implanted, and because I've had a stroke, I'm one of those people that one would probably deem more vulnerable in the event that I would catch the virus. I have aides with me that do all of the household work, that do the laundry, that help me make sure that, I have my dinner prepared, that remind me to take my pills, that go out shopping for me, that do all of the things that let me not feel quite as vulnerable as I might normally feel with the pandemic. I do most of my visits, televisits if I can. But the bottom line is I am now again making use of my long-term care policy, and it's now been over a year. And if I have to repeat it again, if I couldn't have afforded to have done it back in 2013, I certainly would not have been able, without endangering myself terribly financially, to be able to have the security that I feel by virtue of having this policy. And here, once again, as I said before, I intend to survive this. I intend to not get the COVID virus, please God.
Right.
And I intend to eventually have this claim end and go on and continue to have a happy and a healthy life. And God only knows, this is now the second time that I've used it. I don't even want to think about having to use it again.
All right, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. You're not going to use it again, okay?
Okay, that's
All right.
that's a great deal for me, but I know that in the event that I need it,
Right.
it's Vince that gets the phone call
There you go.
who goes, don't worry, this is what you do. If you have any issues, call me back. This is how you handle it. And, I would just have to say, if this is about informing people about the reality of having long-term care insurance, it may feel like a big expense or an unnecessary expense. And all I can say to you is you never know what happens from one day to the next. I never knew, twice in my life, I was faced with life-altering circumstances, and the only way that I could have been able to, I think, to have gotten to this point was by having the benefit of my long-term care policy. So I am so, and there are times, it was my father-in-law, let him rest in peace, who was the one that pushed us to do it. And I go, thank you for pushing. Thank you for pushing us to do this, because where would I be now? I'd probably be broke.
Right.
I don't even know if I could potentially still be living where I'm living.
Right.
And my friends are who love me are comfortable knowing that I have somebody with me for the hours that I need and to do the things that I need. And it's a win as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
It's a win-win in my world. And if anybody is thinking about it, really give it a thought, and just picture, if you can picture yourself, at a relatively, 52 is relatively young to be faced with something like I did at 52. And I don't think of myself as terribly old now. I'm 73. And I intend to keep going. So, don't think, oh, I don't need it now. It's really, for the end of my life. It's not for the end of my life. It's
Right.
for me to continue to have a healthy and productive, hopefully, continuing life. And I will, continue using the benefits of my policy for as long as I and the insurance company deem necessary, and we're both on the same page with it as it now stands.
Well, Joy, listen, I mean, in 21 years, the biggest thing I've seen, because again, I was young when I got into the business, is that everyone thinks this is nursing home insurance, it's old age insurance. And I think you're, unfortunately, or unfortunately, you were an example of things happen at younger ages. And when it happens, we need help. And that help is either going to be provided for at the expense of a family member's lifestyle, their quality of life, or you're going to have to pay for the help, and that help is expensive. So I think that the reason I wanted to have people hear your story is this is not 85, 90, and I'm going to a nursing home and I'm going to die. It's, I had a client at 56 who had a bad fall. She had a spinal collapse, and she's been getting care now for like 8 years. And she was young. And so it's about accidents. It's about anything. And the biggest thing that you're realizing, you mentioned it, this is anti-nursing home insurance. This is insurance that will keep you home as long as that's a feasible option. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because if I had been in a situation that had forced me into a nursing home, I think it would have, in a sense, almost defined a thought process of it being the end of my life. I
Right.
want to be living in my home, in my neighborhood, being able to go out with my mask on and take a walk and see all of the people and go to the bank and do the things that I still need to do in a neighborhood that I've lived in for you'll excuse me for saying it, but I think I've lived in this building for 48 years, and I intend to live here for a lot more. I'm not going anyplace.
There you
And
go.
by virtue of the fact that if I was well, I would know I would be able to stay here. If God forbid something were to happen to me again, I will still be able to stay here unless, of course, something is so severe
Right.
that one is forced to, and then one would be taken care of, hopefully in good stead, where one would be able to choose an appropriate place and end up there. But that's not part of my plan at the moment. Part of my plan at the moment is just to get healthier and stronger and have this virus, have them find a vaccine for this virus so I can get on with my life.
Well, listen, I think I just wanted to keep it really brief. I just wanted to get a client that I've had for a long time who unfortunately had to use the insurance and who really could just share the story about how it really helped them. And you did a great job. So I really appreciate it. And David, I think that's all we want to cover today, if that's okay.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds great to me, Joy. Congratulations. I'm sure I'm really happy that you did make the decision that you did. I couldn't imagine going through what you had, what you have gone through, throughout the years without having that. And, right now, Vince, one of the biggest things that I think about is the home aspect of this. With all the COVID going around, I mean, to think that, hey, you can stay home. You're not restricted, where if you were in a facility, there would be restrictions. You couldn't go out. You couldn't do things because
Right.
of course, bringing in something, or the potential thought of bringing in something that would not only get you, but would get everybody else. So,
Right.
hey, I'm very happy with the conversation. I hate to see anybody have an issue, but if you had an issue, you had a plan before you had the issue. And that's the
Right.
main point.
And
Right.
the concept is you have insurance with the hope that you'll never need it, but God forbid you do.
That's right.
This long-term care insurance is mind-bogglingly important, and it's something that until you have an issue like this, you take it lightly and don't realize how important it is, truly important it is to have. And I hope I didn't take too long or talk too much,
Yeah,
but
You did
But,
great, Joy. Listen,
thank
stay
you.
healthy. And
That's my
obviously,
plan.
I don't want to get that next phone call, but if you need me, you know how to reach me, right?
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank
All
you.
the best. All right.
Really, all the
Thank you
best.
so much. Thank you, Vince.
Bye-bye, guys.
Okay.